So, full disclosure, this video is just going to be a 20 to 30 minute long autistic rant on why I think this tram is really cool. So brace yourself or click off. But yeah, anyways, so this is the tram from the last two videos, and it is coming along good. It's about the exact same state as that last video I posted going to space with it. But just kind of like tweaking around kind of things I want to talk about and whatnot. Obviously the station design isn't quite finished. There's a couple considerations. So this tram, it's got its welder located right here, and what it can actually weld is a cross pattern. So it can't hit these corner blocks like that, but it can hit this cross. So any of these 4 blocks are weldable. The problem is there is no way, short of using subgrids, which aren't printable, to transfer goods in a way, because you can print this conveyor lane on the bottom, right? But there's no way to connect this conveyor line to the tram, because you think the only way you can interact with a large grid conveyor without subgrids, of course, is via the small grid large connector. The problem with the small grid large connector is it's a 3x3 block, which is our maximum block we can put inside the passageway. So that sounds great, but the problem is you need it to be facing one of those directions, one of the 4 directions, and as soon as you do that, piping up that connector becomes impossible within the 3x3 limitation. So there's no way to put a connector facing any one of the directions. So the only way to get stuff onto the cart is via a conveyor, which is, oh yeah, because this isn't aligned right now. Usually it aligns right here. So you can drop things out of a connector into the conveyor, which will load it. So you can technically unload the train by using another conveyor facing down into a large grid conveyor. You can't unload it because you can't eject from a conveyor. You can, and the only reason why a conveyor works, if I have it, yes, here it is. So when we look at conveyor, am I saying a conveyor? Collector. So this is a large grid collector, which we're not using, but this is the small large connector, and you can see it has 2 outputs, 2 small large outputs. So it allows items to come in from the top and go out the side, all within that 3x3. So that's why this works in the tram. Of course, there's no way to eject out this conveyor, so we can't just face one down to inject out the train. And there's no way to put a connector that's piped up for large grid. We could put a connector that's piped up for small grid, for these small ports, but the small ports won't move the components we need to move, so that doesn't work. And this is a large grid, that doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's currently the issue. Why I'm still kind of hesitant about this train station, because I wanted to make the train station actually printable, so you could say have it set up so it always does in a 1 kilometer length of tram, and then every 1 kilometer there's a train station or whatever. So I'm still trying to figure out like the best way to utilize that space. Like this loader can be printed. So this loader you could have set up so every 1 kilometer it prints one of these loaders, which allows you to, fly in a ship, dock it up, transfer in the resources to load it up, and then the logic on the train can have it return to the last known loading zone, fill up the cargo, head back to continue welding. Because when you're talking about medium cargo containers, and there's only 3 of these, plus the how did I already forget the name of it again? This thing, the collector. So there's 3 of them plus the collector, which is half the size of a normal small grid, or small medium cargo. God, this naming convention in this game, it's very confusing at times. So it has very limited storage, is what I'm trying to say. So you have to kind of ferry back between these points. So this is a printable way to do it, so that you can have this printed, and then the cart doesn't have to go all the way back to the initial origin, which just makes it faster. I mean, it moves pretty fast anyways, but when you're talking about, like, if you're playing on realistic, I think you might get, like, realistic cargo with the 3. I think you would only get, like, a dozen or so of these windowed passageways, so you don't get very far off that. Of course, you can add in a second train cart and then extend the drill, extend the cargo capacity on the drill if you wanted, which would get you a little bit farther. I don't really play survival, so it doesn't really matter to me, and if I do, I usually play on 10 times cargo space just because it's easier. But yeah, anyways, okay, so where was I? I told you this is gonna be a fucking rant. This is looking good. So right now I've just got this kind of linked up, because so we can disable, which is it? Hold on. Rear merge box, so 5. Disable our rear merge box, so of course we can still drive this. One thing you might have noticed is in the journey to space, this didn't even slow down when it started acting against gravity. So of course, because worlds are round, as you go out this way, eventually the angle of which the gravity is interacting with the tram changes, and it becomes essentially lateral with, or you know what I mean. So you're pushing against the whole of gravity. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, what would happen if I just take this? So I had to kind of subgrade it on just to do this. But what happens if I just plop this vertically? So of course we don't have much tube here, so let's just add a bit more tube. I'm not copying the whole space tube because that would just, one, be too much, and 2, it kind of lags out the game a bit when you do that. Figures. Oh yeah, speaking of that, the theoretical maximum for this tram is, if you're not doing the conveyor, so you're just doing the single passageway, is 40,000 blocks, I believe. And that is the point at which you hit the grid limit. In theory, I've never built a structure at 40,000 blocks. In theory, if the game can handle multiple of those structures just on separate grids, you can reconnect them and go, because this tram is completely capable of being separated by 1, I think even 2 blocks is fine, just because this tram is so heavy. And if you have, say you put 2 or 3 carts, you could actually even drop this down to one of these passageways every 5 or 6, and then you could just fill the rest in with these steel plates. So that's another thing to talk about, is this tram can drive on passageways, it can drive on steel plates in either position, so inset the block or on the below block, but it cannot drive on a full block. I don't know why, but it cannot. It is very annoying. So you have to, if you need to drive it out of this and it needs to be on a player built structure, it has to be on plates. Okay, anyways, yes. So we go back over here. So let's see what happens when we do this. Come in here. And first things first, we need to go and disconnect. So we are sitting free floating, and I can just drive forward. And as you can see, I'm able to go forward. And I'm actually able to, without even using the brakes, I can stop. And as you can see, we just launched right out of that tube. Oh, no, we're not gonna. I thought maybe we would slide right back into the tube. That would have been great. But yeah, you can see, it just goes without care. It just like lawn darted right into the ground. That's, holy, look at that freaking crater that made. I guess there's a couple batteries back there maybe. So yeah, you can see this will go straight up into the air. It'll stop. I guess I should have showcased that. But let's see if we go back in a new one here. So if we go here, oh, I did again. Am I still in the tube? Nope. Do that before it destroys everything. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to show that you can stop, and you can either stop as long as there's enough tube. You can usually stop. I think there's a gap in my tube right now, which is stopping it. No. I don't. Sometimes you can stop without using the brake, but it kind of depends on how much there's gravity. You can increase the friction of the wheels, which will allow you to do this. But if you just hit 6 and you activate the park brakes, or for that matter, this brakes on/off button, you will just perfectly stop. So this cart obviously is designed for lateral transfer. But if you were to redesign this cart, this is an incredibly easy to make elevator that moves at 65 meters per second, builds itself, and is extremely low on the PCU count and doesn't use any subgrids. So of course I do have a subgrid here to be able to hook this up. So deploying this in a survival situation, you will need to use at least one subgrid to create the cart in a way, because obviously in Creative World I can just paste this into place, but getting this cart into the tube at a 90-degree is not a non-trivial matter. You either need to use a crane or you need to place it, weld it, and that's another thing I'm looking at trying to design for this station. Is actually a way that basically you would take a block, right, and then to set its angle you'd go and you'd why can't I do this? Right, you'd set its angle. So I want this, say I want the tram to go into the air. I would set it like this. And you take your projector, you put your projector down, and you project the whole tram station. You would build that, and then in that projection there would be like a projector, like in this back section here you'd have a welder back here, and then a tug, and you could tug out the whole tram projector build with a tug, and then build the tram right onto the platform, which allows you to do things like building the tram vertically. And it also means it's a single, well, 2 blueprints. But yeah, I'm just going off onto a tangent here. But yeah, like this will work perfectly. This is only 1G, but there's plenty of power left in this. Like, you gotta, like, if you look at this, right, there's a lot of wheels. There's a lot of wheels, and all these wheels are powering. The only wheels that are dumb wheels are these wheels. And these wheels exist solely so that if you're on voxels and you want to transport the tram, you can, because this, if you're not in the tube, right, that weighs down depending on gravity, so they needed some dolly wheels. But all of this, and speaking of like dolly wheels, I'm still debating. One of the issues in loading this tram as it is with the welder and drill dolly is that depending on the angle, if you don't have a long run up, as you can see here, like this is where I built the tram station, but it has a very long run up which follows the curve of the world. And that was because if you have, like, if you just try and do this, like, or if you just try and place a block and you're like, okay, I'll just build a slope and I'll drive it up this slope. Well, no, you're not driving it up this slope. That's impossible. It will jam. You need to have an incredibly long slope to get it in. So it's really hard to angle it sometimes in a way that is survival friendly anyways. It just requires some extra engineering to place it into place, and I'm still trying to like absolutely minimize the effort, because in my mind I see a point where you can deploy like 10, 20 of these into your world and just build this massive kind of Dyson sphere-esque structure, maybe not around the whole planet, but around a chunk of the planet that you want to cohabitate, or interior of the planet for that matter. Actually, I don't think I've done a drill test yet, which is oh Jesus, sorry, kind of crazy. Let's try and do a drill test here. To do that, I want a little bit more tube, but I can't just place it afterwards, so let's do this. Something like this. Oh, that was a big chunk. Big chunk loader. Okay, so let's do this. Only 20 minutes so far. I told you it would be 20 to 30 minutes. I'm almost done talking, I think. I just wanted to get some of these thoughts out. Okay, so I think now we can take this and we can just see what happens, I guess. So the cart is here, so if we come in here, you can see this is going straight into the ground. I have actually not tested the drill. Like, in theory, I'm pretty sure it all works, but I have not tested it at all. So there's one issue I can see with the drill. Actually, I'm going to change this. And that is, it is going to damage the blocks that are already built. Which is fine, because the welder will fix them, but if you ever stop moving, I'll just have to add in some timer block logic. Yeah, okay, the drill works. So let's turn on our brakes. Let's disable our rear lock. Let's turn on our drill, and actually no. First, let's change. A lot of this logic still has to be put in. So I found about 18 kilometers an hour max speed at 10% propulsion is the fastest I could go building 2 blocks. So I assume that's about right for the drill to activate, so let's find out here, I guess. We can add in our propulsion and turn on our drill and unlock our brakes. And okay, we're already smashing into the... Okay, so we're definitely not going as fast as we would if we were just building. Let's see. See how this is going. So you can see it excavates. So I think it missed a bit here because it was like accelerating. So I just didn't have time to work there. I don't think it's gonna miss any afterwards now. Maybe it will. Oh, it's looking pretty clean. Kind of hard to get in there, obviously. And you can see it does appear to be building faster than it can drill. Or wait, no, we're not building. We're not building right now. But the welder is on, so if it's doing any damage. So let's... Yeah. So here, the welder just kicked on, so it is dealing, the drill is dealing damage to the casing, to the passageway. But of course it can just fix that. So, there we can kind of see what it's doing. It's moving pretty slow here, because it is, like I don't even have right grip drilling enabled. I assume that's something you could do. You can speed it up if you want to go with it. When I build these kind of machines, I always operate under the principle that the machine must operate independently after being launched. Right? I understand that. There's pretty much no way I'm going to make a machine that doesn't require some intervention to launch it. Are we not moving forward? What's going on? Trying to see why we're jammed up. If we're jammed up. Are we jammed up? Oh. Hello. So why are we jammed up? For a second. So I'm trying to like look for any voxels. Inside the passageway. Oh yeah, here it is. So we got voxels inside the passageway here. And these voxels, okay. So these were the voxels that I missed. So in that case, can we just fix this by turning these on and then going 4-4 to hold on. Did I clean those voxels up? Think we've cleaned those voxels up. Of course, if I just start tweaking speeds and feeds, I should be able to do that a little bit more cleanly. So in this case, because I got stuck, I broke that section, and the welder, or there's no projector currently enabled, so it's not going to repair it, but that's fine. Like I say, it can completely handle being lacking 1 or 2 sections, it got caught on the voxels back there because the voxels effectively made the passageway instead of a square into a rectangle, and it just kind of like crushed itself. That could possibly be limited just by changing the way how this suspension is handled, but I don't think that's really going to be a problem as long as, because that voxel was only introduced because the run-up allowed the machine to get too much speed. When it's butting up against the ground like it is right now, it never gets too much speed, so it has time to fully clear its capacity. In theory. As I watched, I was getting windows like that. But yeah, this is looking pretty good. Look and see what the tunnel looks like outside-wise. It's just a bit bigger. Because of course, the drill is just a bit wider, which gets you a nice. We're not completely in the ground yet, but with the windows, you do get a little bit of a look into the ground you're burrowing into, which is nice. I still think the windowless passageways are cheaper, but of course they're dark and dingy, and these windows look great, especially when you're moving at fast speed because they just look like one window. But as you can see, this is even drilling straight into the ground. This isn't this isn't straight down. You can do straight down, no problem. It's the same logic as straight up. As long as you can go back up, you can go straight down. And the cool thing about this is a pretty damn consistent voxel path. Like the drill cannot wander. Previous projects like my Nautilus, the drill does technically wander. It's impossible to make a straight path just because there's so many little rounding errors in the game logic that stop you from going perfectly straight with the drill. But because this is always centered in the tube, and the tube is built on the grid system, it is a straight tube with a pretty uniform pathway. So, my game just crashed. Yeah, I don't know why, but my computer has been not happy with me. So we'll just reload into that and pretend like nothing happened. But yeah, I don't think there's too much more I wanted to really cover on this. I kind of thought this would be like a 1-2 night task type thing, make the monorail, and then I made the monorail, but then I want to make everything to supplement the monorail to make it as appealing to build as possible. And that all takes time, especially when you're trying to make it as simple as possible. One of the reasons why I kind of went so crazy trying to figure out a way to do without subgrids is because I want it to be as printable as possible. Most of my creations, they're just frankly not printable, but this one totally is. And my drill it appears to be full. I don't think that actually matters in creative mode, but yeah, you can see when you're going through this, you can still get a nice view at the rock. Yeah, I don't think there's like a whole lot more to discuss. Can I get through here? No, I don't think I can. Let me out. So yeah, this can go laterally or vertically. It can dig, it can build. It's pretty functional for what it is. I mean, it's tiny. I mean, it's long, don't get me wrong, but it's tiny. It is a 3x3 tram. It's a I don't know if this would classify as a 3x3 tram or as a 4x4 tram. Because technically it's utilizing 4 blocks, because this is an outer skin. So, well, it's utilizing five blocks. It's utilizing the full 5 blocks, but the main body is only 3x3, and the 4th block is technically only, 1/8 of a block, because it's just these, unless you count the wheels, which stick out considerably farther into that full 5 blocks. So it's somewhere between a 3x3 and a 5x5. But needless to say, I think that's still, no matter which way you measure it, I think it's still one of the smallest monorails in the game. It's certainly one of the easiest monorails. Like, the hard part was just figuring out the arrangement of wheels. And you can see here I've tried different things. That's one of the ones here, one of the old ones, and all the way back to like old trying 1x1s and different. I had them in the center at one point. Couldn't do this because it would just tilt. He ended up going tipsy-turvy in the tube and didn't look so good. But yeah, this is just unrelated, but once I figured out the actual tram design to keep yourself centered in the tube as well as move and operate in different gravities and whatnot, this is pretty simple, the drill and stuff. The only limitation is, of course, how do you load and unload it, being that you're stuck in that 3x3 space requirement. And the answer is not super easily. So honestly, it's taking more to design all the supplemental things that make it usable than it did to create the entire design that made it possible. And I shouldn't say create, because somebody's probably already done this. I'd be surprised if they haven't. I've not seen it, but of course, as soon as I seen the signal pack and I seen this, I was like, this corridor block, I was like, okay, that's really cool and totally abusable. And I think my computer is crashing more right now because I am recording. So also, this has been 33 minutes of fucking ranting. I don't even think I've said anything of use. I'm gonna end it here and say this is really cool design, and I'm still working on it. And yeah, hopefully I'm gonna get it on the workshop soon, because I think it's super useful. Like I said, you can use it as a tram. You can use it as storage transfer to hook up multiple bases. You can use it as an elevator. You can use it as both or all 3 of those. You can use it as a space elevator. What can't you do? You can turn the train into a missile if you want. It's a cool design. You can dig tunnels. It's a very functionally useful tram, which I think is one of space engineers' issues when it comes to trams, is often not. They are functionally useful, but to build them, they become infeasible. Like, I know Splitsies have done some, you get out perfectly placed blocks manually, you have to turn off your frickin' grid cleanup, all this, and still they kind of break often. And at this one, I have literally had no failures beyond things that I induced a failure. It's been operating very, very stably, and as you can see, you can go straight up and down, and it's really cool. And I'm gonna stop ranting and close this video out before it gets to the 35-minute mark. So okay, bye. Oh shit, what's the off button?